Hey folks, Mark Scroggins with Scroggins Law Group. We are here today with the very first edition of the Reclamation Transformation podcast. This is a rebranding of what used to be Family Law Talk that's powered by Scroggins Law Group. But we're wanting to go a little deeper into things, not just about family law in general, but get into spirituality and different things and what the effect people have had based on being in the family law system.
Right.
And additionally, how when we go through a shitstorm in life, how, being able to rely on some sort of spirituality, whatever that is for you, as compared to everybody else. And everybody can be different about that. But how that plays into the way we deal with things, right? I know that's made a huge change in my life. And so I'm really excited today that we've got Wendell Merriweather here, that is a business owner in Dallas, and I won't do it justice, Wendell. So why don't you tell the folks a little bit about you and your background and your business stuff?
All right. Yeah. So I have a small barbershop in Dallas, Texas. It's called Merriweather & Co. Barbershop, located in the TA Travel Center. And I've been in business for myself since 2013. And so there we have it.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it. One of the things that excites me about this today is you've had an experience in the family law system that I think a lot of men have, and a lot of women too. And there are people that have felt that they're kind of invisible in that situation and that they lack power. So can you tell me a little bit about that? We were talking a little bit beforehand, but I want everybody to hear what your experience has been in that regard.
In that regard, dealing with having children before wedlock.
Sure.
Getting married with having those children afterwards. And then actually, going through the divorce process is, you keep choosing one thing,
right?
And then you choose another thing, and then you go through another thing, and it kind of seems like, which way is up? Why do I keep making these same messed up decisions? And to tell you the truth, there's consequences for your actions, but but it should not be a death sentence. So that's where I'm at. It's not my most proudest moment, but then having to trying to overcome in spite of your circumstances is where I'm at. And a lot of people are there too. So
yeah. So let me ask you this. When you went through the divorce, were you represented by an attorney?
No, I was not represented by an attorney.
So let me mention one thing, and that's part of the process. So obviously, I do this for a living. I'm board certified in family law, and God, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but in May it'll be 30 years that I've been practicing law.
Congratulations!
So it makes me old as shit, is what it does. Right. So, the first thing I tell everybody, there are lots of attorneys out there that will do free consultations. Your better lawyers won't do a free consultation, but it's going to be some. It might be their hourly rate for an hour. It might be less. Like, for example, my hourly rate is different than what my consult rate is. Consult's going to be just a portion of what my normal hourly rate is. And the reason behind that, the reason I mentioned this, is to make sure that you understand the rules of the game. And when I say you, obviously, I don't mean you specifically. I'm talking about the collective you. And because that's one of the things, I use the term game specifically and very intentionally because there is gamesmanship throughout this whole thing, just like we were talking about. You've got someone who's trying to jack with you about things and play on your fears. And so understanding what the limits of what somebody can do, and is this just bullshit? Can they actually do what they're saying? Or how do I change the game and take away the power that she is trying to, enlist over you in the process? So that's one of the things that I always suggest, because I think, you found yourself in a situation of feeling like she's trying to take advantage. And from what you have told me, I got to agree with you.
Yeah. A lot of people, men and women, find themselves in that. A lot of times, women find themselves in a more physical abusive situation. Mostly men find themselves in a mentally abusive situation. So, you know, some men feel that, and especially how I feel. Let me just
Right.
don't go through how most men feel, but if you can agree with it, let me know. But
Sure.
I kind of felt like uh, it's a game of chess, not checkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're going to allude to later on how to fight in the proper way as
Right.
far as legally. But most people play checkers in it. So what I try to tell most men is, and most women, we go into relationships not doing our due diligence on our partners.
Totally agree with that.
But I have a statement that I've always used, just because in this society, even the right partner could be the wrong partner
Oh, there's no question about that.
because of the legal system and how it's set up. Um, you go into a situation not really knowing, and then you find out later how to do what, handle it, because you've already been through the process already. And so, you know, they say you don't take L's, but you get lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of this times, marriages and relationships, you learn stuff after the fact, and it's just a difficult situation for a lot of people.
Sure.
Everybody's dealing with it. No one's above it. No matter the class, no matter how professional you are,
Right.
no matter how low on the spectrum that you think you are, to high up to kings. I mean, we've all dealt with it um, on planet Earth. But how we deal with each other, relationship wise, is key. I believe in you need to have expectations. You need to be talking about agreements,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to enforce those boundaries. And that's not only for you, but it's also for the other person too, so everybody can be on an even keel. But we don't learn those things.
So I'm glad you mentioned that,
Right.
because I agree with that 100%. And I think the starting point in that is understanding what the rules of the game are.
Yes, sir.
Because in a situation where someone is, let's just talk about a common scenario of whoever the kids are living with primarily, be it female or male. If there's not already an order in place, okay, that determines conservatorship, which is all about the rights and duties that we have as parents to make child rearing decisions, or dealing with possession and access, which is exactly what it sounds like, the amount of time. Once we know what the rules of the game are, and if somebody's threatening, hey, the kids are living with me, I need you to pay this, or I'm going to withhold your time to the kids. Well, if you know the rules of the game, you can completely take that person's power away, because those threats don't mean shit. Okay.
Right.
Because once you've got an order in place that states what you are going to pay, you don't have to deviate from that at all. And if that person tries to withhold your children from you, you can go in and file what's called an enforcement motion and seek to have them held in contempt for it, where the judge can actually throw their ass in jail.
Right.
So, when somebody is trying
how
to
to
do,
fight.
That's exactly it.
Right.
That's
For the lack-
exactly it.
But see, the Bible says, for the lack of knowledge, the people perish.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of lack of knowledge there.
Right. Well, and that's why I'm so excited about us having this conversation today, because I'm hoping that people are going to, look at this and understand, well, shit, man, I need to know what the rules are. So how do I just exist in this scenario? Much less how do I, try to get an upper hand, or how do I make sure that I am getting what's fair and what's best for my kids? And, it's just like, if I needed a will created for myself, I sure as hell am not going to try to draft that, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
That's not what I do. So
Why most people, let's go there. Why most people don't draft wills?
no, because they don't know what they're doing.
That, and they don't want to face.
They don't want to face the situation.
They
Look
don't
at their
wanna
own
face
mortality.
their own mortality.
Sure.
So I believe there's a lot of people like myself. I'm just talking about me.
Right.
who wants to face it?
Yeah.
When you do, hey,
Right.
I'm blind. I'm not going to have to deal with the problems, but eventually
Right.
you're going to have to do what?
Yeah, you got to deal with
You're
it
going
at
to have to
some
deal
point.
with it because
Yeah.
it's easier to just like forget it because guess what? Life keeps going on.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, I'm going to have to get a will drafted up.
That's right.
I'm going to have to get some life insurance instead of, having a GoFundMe account at the end of my passing.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a lot of people's problem. They don't want to face what they're dealing with because they already got so many other problems prior to this.
Right.
Now they're adding one more on.
And I think that is dead on and exactly what happens with a lot of people. I mean,
Right.
I think it's normal. I think, people, we don't want to look at something that creates a lot of fear, right? And that gets us upset over something. It's, what I refer to as the ostrich defense, right?
Okay.
You got your head in the sand. It's easy for somebody to come by and kick your ass.
Right.
Right. And I'm talking about, I know that I can do that personally. I have done that personally, in lots of different situations.
Right.
But that's something that can be remedied pretty easily. But now the question is, how do we do that?
Right.
So how do we do that?
Well, by first, realizing that you even have a problem. I stayed in a 10-year marriage to avoid everything that I'm going through right now.
Right.
The problem is you're going to have to face it,
Right.
whether you like to or not.
Right.
So what do we do now?
Yeah. So, and that's why I was talking about there've got to be some different vehicles to get this information out there as far as, and there need to be leaders in different societies,
Right.
different socioeconomic groups that tell people, look, man, you cannot just ignore this shit because it is not going away. It is going to be there. It's like, a person who, there's you got a tornado coming down the street. If you sit there and film it, the odds are you're going to get really great video, but you might die in the process.
Right.
It's much smarter to go get in your basement, and make sure that you're going to be safe. It's the same kind of scenario with any lawsuit.
Yeah, I told my pastor one time before, we have to stop making arguments on how things are supposed to be.
Right.
And start making realizations on how things are.
Totally agree.
That way we can fix the problem, head on.
Right.
And that's where I'm at. A lot of people do not have the resources or the monetary means to fight. And so I told God, I said, if I ever make it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure if there's grant money or whatever, but this is so personal to me because it's not a lot of free help for men.
That's true.
I mean, praise God for the women's shelters. Praise God for the the transitional homes and the things out there for women that suffer from abuse. But there, for a man is, you have to get it. You have to pull yourself up on the bootstraps. You literally have to, no one cares. Because I kind of feel, I'm serious, no one cares about your problems. And that's just society as a whole. We got to go out here and achieve, certain things. We have to go out here. We're going to have to work hard regardless. But, it's kind of a double standard when it comes down to that. And what happens when you don't have family? And don't have the right support.
So I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Okay. And I would agree that there is a common story that is out there right now dealing with, coming out of the, especially with the Me Too movement, and there's a lot more knowledge about what programs are out there for women. From dealing with drug and alcohol abuse, maybe they're using that to try to run away from the problems that they're dealing with, whether it's physical abuse or verbal abuse. And so I think there's been more attention that is brought to that. And so more women know what the resources are that are out there. What I am here to tell you, though, is that there are resources out there for men, too.
Really?
And so
Okay.
there are. And so the issue becomes one of where we've got to, so my wife is a nurse, all
Okay.
right? And what she will tell me, and I've had so many damn surgeries from, sports injuries and stuff. But what she will tell me or anybody that's having health concerns is you've got to be your own best advocate.
Mm.
All right. So it's like we've got to search that thing out because I'm a firm believer in that you got to try to help yourself along the way. And when people see that you are trying to do that, they are more intent on offering some additional help. So, like what I mentioned before on there are lawyers who do free consultations. That gives you the rules to the game. There are also attorneys that most attorneys will do some pro bono work at some point or do some things on a reduced scale, depending on if they have met what they are doing for that calendar year. Obviously, when you're running a business, you can only do so much of that, right? Without, putting yourself in the poorhouse and making sure the business goes under.
Right.
But there are other things out there like North Texas legal systems that if you would, if they could find that you are indigent, and that doesn't mean on the street, but that means that there's nothing else beyond making the basics. You might be able to get stuff there. There are a lot of churches that create funds to assist people on doing some things. So there are things that are out there, but it's something where we have to be our own best advocate. I mean, where I tend to look at this is, for a long time, I thought I was bulletproof. I thought there was nothing was going to touch me, nothing was going to get me. And then when I got in my late 30s, man, I started blowing out different joints and stuff from different things. So I've had 4 knee surgeries, I've had 3 neck surgeries, I've had, a bunch of these different things. And I tried to ignore it up to the point where I no longer could. And so I had to take some action. Unfortunately, a lot of the time in the scenario we're talking about, it's mental, right? It's getting over the mental deal. So at a certain point, if you're jacked up enough physically, you're not going to have a choice but to do something about it.
Right.
The question becomes for us, I think, dealing with it from the mental standpoint is how much pain can we truly endure before we're at that point that it is a catalyst for us to go out and find, I've got to get some help somewhere. And so I think this is a really great opportunity for you and I to get this message out there. I want people to know that there are places you can go to get the information you need so that you're not going to get screwed around in this, or at least you're going to limit what it is. I can tell you what judges are looking for or what what mental health professionals are looking for when they do certain things. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Yeah.
Knowledge is power. So when you know that, all these threats that somebody is making that are just bullshit, but if you don't know that it's bullshit, it's scary as hell.
I was telling somebody before, sometimes, what, like I may be good at such and such.
Right.
And you may be good at that.
Exactly.
It could be something as simple as filling out something, but some people have phobias. That fear thing and that
It's real.
Anxiety when it comes down to stuff, but having the right people or even when you pray to God, this is like getting yourself out of your own way to even allow somebody to help you.
Totally agree.
So there's the thing that you know how to do, but sometimes when you pray, be mindful that he hears your prayers. He knows your heart, even to this situation. Me being in alignment with my problems directed me here to you today.
Right.
So this is even an answered prayer, even us having this podcast and this video meeting.
Right.
This is also help. And it's a testament to that help that when I pray, God hears it, and there's hope in that. Because if the enemy can do what? Steal your hope, he can destroy you.
That is absolutely right, man.
That's never forget that.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm a testament to it, and I haven't even received the help yet.
Yeah.
But if he can attack my hope, then he got me.
I agree. I mean, that's one thing that, feeling like you have some hope, if you feel like you just don't have any hope,
In the
don't
will to
have a
fight.
chance,
Right.
I mean, that is, the root of destruction.
Yeah.
When you mentioned pull yourself up by the bootstraps,
Yeah.
holy shit, man, that is the visual of my dad
Right.
because, I know.
Suck it up.
Yeah, exactly. Rub some dirt in it, man. Get
Yeah.
back out there,
Right.
and do that. And I get it because I operated that way for a long time.
But
It's like,
you're gonna burn out.
yeah. Well, it's like why do men have so many,
Right.
why is heart disease number one for men, right? There's a comedian that I like, a guy named Bill Burr,
Yeah,
that
I
talks
like Bill
about,
Burr, too.
just pushing all that shit down.
Right.
And that's the reason you've got people that have, all the heart attacks and we die left and right at young ages.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm doing
so
the
it's-
best I can.
That's right. That's right. But, it's
Yeah.
like that deodorant commercial. You don't want to let them see you sweat, right?
Yeah.
So there's also, I have learned, this is just me, all right? There is a certain power in allowing yourself to be vulnerable with other men that you can trust. It doesn't mean that you lead with your freaking chin, right? You've got to have a group of men that you can truly trust and that have got your back, no matter what. They might not approve of what your actions are,
Right.
but they love you and they have got your back.
Right.
And so there is something that is helpful there. So, I mean, I've received a lot of help that way. I told you I've been in recovery for a long time, and that has been something that was really, really important to me. Before I had that, before I could allow people to see that I was hurting, that I had these fears and shit like that, sobriety was just a wish.
Yeah. Having someone hold you accountable is
That's
key.
right.
Something that I live by is the 5 pillars of success. Who's around me socially?
Right.
Mentally, what am I focusing on?
Right.
Financially, what am I spending my money on and how good of a steward I am?
Exactly.
Next is spiritually. What do you believe in? What are you reading to feed your spirit?
Yep.
And then physically, how are you taking care of yourself?
Right.
And you don't have to be, you don't have to do all of them perfectly.
That's right.
But you do have to mind them every day.
Totally agree.
That's very important.
I agree.
Yeah, that's something that I preach and I teach.
So what could we do you think, as a society in general, to make sure that people understand these things out there? So let me address one thing. We talked about a little bit, you've got some lawyers that do some pro bono, but how do you know who to get to? So one thing is like calling, just about every county has a bar association. Okay. So for Dallas, they have Dallas Bar Association and they have call lists. Okay, for people that are doing pro bono work, and where they will send stuff out into the community of if somebody needs a will done, or somebody needs to get a divorce, or someone's got a parentage lawsuit to establish paternity and get all that stuff done. And so those are things that that are out there that can be utilized. But how do we get that information? Is it we do it based on like pastoral care? I mean, how do we do that through the churches? It seems like sometimes people are scared about saying that kind of stuff, like seeking out business.
The church is key.
Yeah, I'm glad you alluded to it a little bit, and we started talking a little bit about God and spirituality.
Right.
So, can you tell everybody what you do and how your relationship with God has really led you into what you're doing, and then what your the plans are as time goes on?
Well, God's plans is not always your plans.
Isn't that the truth?
So, while I was married, I know I always wanted to be in business for myself, and I know He had a greater plan and purpose for my life.
Right.
But, how does that look? Especially when you have child support on you, you have a family to support.
Right.
If you don't go out here and try to work a 9 to 5, what do you do?
Right.
So, yeah, God had to intervene in spite of my circumstances.
Right.
And so, are you going to choose to do it your way? Or are you going to choose to do it His way?
Right.
And, that's very important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people start doing things their way, I can see why people go to do it in legal activity.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am trying to represent God, to have to stay in a marriage that was failing
Right.
year by year.
Yep.
And what kept me on track is doing it His way,
Right.
in spite of. And that takes that's where true integrity is really measured, because when it's laid out for you to do and justify, I always have this quote. I say, you have to be careful what you feel justified by.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel justified to do something, you'll do the most craziest things in the name of feeling justified.
Right.
But what does God justify? Do you trust Him? If you truly trust Him, then allow Him to lead you. And that's what getting out of your own way does. So when I started, I went to barber school, and someone told me to go to barber school. And next thing you know, he told me to do something like shoe shine. I mean, I never did a shoe shine before. I knew how shoe shines was looked back in the day. Here's another step and fetch it, or another,
Right.
slave, shining shoes. But it was a humbleness in it. And so I went to the airport, and I trained today, learned today, and got out of my own way. Next thing you know, I have a shoe shine booth down at the Fountain Place. And then from the Fountain Place, it turned into 5 other places, Ross Tower, and all this other stuff. And next thing you know, I'm doing shoe shine events for Dickies Clothing. And I'm doing the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And next thing you know, I'm doing Posty Fest. And I'm making $7,000 to do shoe shines and $10,000 contracts, man. I'm like, what is this? Because I chose to get out of my own way, in spite of my circumstances.
Right. I tell you what.
And then it turned into my own barbershop. And it, in spite of my circumstances, I'm thankful, because I've seen everything, how things are supposed to be,
Right.
But it's not what, if you, on paper, I'm not supposed to be here. But through God, I can do all things. So that's just a little glimpse of my testimony. So
I get it, man. So that is, faith is an interesting thing.
mm-hmm.
It is, for me, it was hard. I grew up in the church. I knew enough about stuff in the Bible to be dangerous on my recovery, because I held on to certain things that I think prevented me from having that personal relationship. And through, a number of different things, I was able to get past that. Now I am a huge believer in that for those who are given much, much is expected.
Right.
And so there are different things, that I do in my personal life I don't really talk about, because it's nobody else's business, but it's stuff to fulfill what I think I am called to do.
Right.
But one of the things that I think is really unique, one of the things that you were just mentioning to me about, in your barbershops, and you're not just there, giving someone a great cut.
Mm-hmm.
But you are there because if you're dealing with so many of these truck drivers,
so many different
that have
so many
no,
energies. Right.
Who are they going to talk to? I mean, when the shit hits the fan, they're in a truck. They don't have the ability to sit there and have conversations with a bunch of people, but they come in, they know when they're going through Dallas and they stop at TA, they're going to get to talk to Wendell,
Right.
And they've got a sounding board who's going to really,
listen to them.
Exactly. And talk straight to them.
Right. Yeah, man. That's, behind the wheel, a lot of people, a lot of different personalities, right?
Right.
So you have people who don't get hurt and don't have anyone to talk to.
Right.
And you don't know, I could be preventing a crash if they zone out on their problems. They have problems too.
Absolutely.
The truckers they put their lives on the line every day.
Right.
A lot of people don't even know the dangerous situations that's out there. And so to be able to be that sounding board, to be able to either plant a seed, water that seed, or either reap the benefits of it is truly amazing. And and I thank God for Him putting me in a position there at the TA Travel Center in Petro.
Right.
That has opened up a major door for me. And so for me to have so many new people coming in from all over America and the world, I'm able to talk to a lot of different men and women that come through there.
I think that is such an incredible deal and such an incredible opportunity and service that you are providing. And for me, learning how to trust, that is a learned talent. Because we talk about getting talked to through our gut, right?
Right.
And some of the stuff sounds like, are you kidding me? Really?
You can't.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Really?
And so, go ahead and do it. And you take that leap of faith,
right.
And then as you do that, it's like muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
You get used to it and everything turns out right. It's just like, some of the things that I have thought that were the worst thing in the world that could have possibly happened to me have turned out to be the best thing that could possibly happen to me. There's a saying in a group that I'm involved in that says, our history becomes our greatest asset. That, we don't want to forget about our past, and we can use our past to be of service to others.
Right.
And so these opportunities that present themselves, and when, my morning, I have a morning ritual, so to speak. I get up, I do something that's called two-way prayer that involves writing. And so it's a way, my mind is so active. It's a way that through the writing, my mind becomes focused. But the big thing I'm asking for today is, Lord, please put me in a position where I can be of service to others.
Right.
Okay. And that's not what is normal to Mark Scroggins. What is normal to Mark Scroggins is kind of be an asshole.
Right.
Okay. But when I can get out of the way and I am actually tasked with being something better than who I am.
Right.
Of my own making, then it's a whole different story.
Ain't shit in us.
Of course.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Let's keep it 100.
Yeah.
I like to say I'm just a little bit less ain't shit than everybody else.
I get it.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I mean, just to break, we all sinners saved by grace at the end of the day, Mark. So don't beat yourself up too much. I mean, the greatest in the kingdom is one who serves.
That's right.
You let that be the most, if that's at your heart of hearts, it's going to shine out in your day-to-day walk.
Right.
You don't even have to preach about it and brag about it. Like that's who you are.
Humility is an interesting thing, my friend.
Yes, it is.
So I want to thank you, Wendell, for being here today
for
my very first show. The Reclamation Transformation podcast. I want everybody out there to remember, change begins with you. Make sure to leave your mark. Thanks, everybody.